You know the day. We've all had it. The one where nothing compiles, every tool seems to be fighting you, and by 5 p.m., you're just staring at your screen wondering, did I actually accomplish anything today? We call it a bad day, but it's way more than just a bad mood. It's a real phenomenon. And today, we're diving into an incredible study that put that exact phenomenon under a microscope to find out what's really going on. All right, here's our game plan. First, we'll talk about why the bad day problem is such a big deal. Then, and this is the really cool part, we'll get into the research blueprint to see how they figured all this out. After that, we'll reveal the top triggers that cause a bad day, look at the very real human cost, see how the hard data backs it all up, and finally connect all the dots to show this dangerous, vicious cycle that can trap developers. So first things first, having a great developer experience isn't just some fluffy, nice-to-have thing. It's a huge business advantage. I mean, we're talking about companies with a great DevX seeing up to 50% higher productivity and 5 times the revenue growth. Plus, they're way better at holding on to their top talent. So yeah, when a developer has a bad day, it's not just their problem, it's a major problem for the business. And that gets us to the whole point of this research. The goal was to stop guessing, to move past just anecdotes and gut feelings like, ugh, the build felt slow today. The idea was to apply a super rigorous scientific process to ask, how slow was it really? And what is the actual measurable impact of that slowness on a developer's day? Okay, let's get into the how, because this is where it gets absolutely fascinating. I mean, think about it. How do you actually measure a feeling like frustration? How do you put a number on it? That was the challenge, and the researchers came up with this brilliant, multi-layered plan to crack it. They used what's called a mixed methods approach, which is really just a smart way of saying they attacked the problem from every angle they could think of. Look at the flow here. It's like a funnel of discovery. They started out really broad with in-depth interviews, just exploring what a bad day even meant to people. Then, they took what they learned and built a big survey to measure how widespread these issues were. After that, they zoomed in with a diary study to get real-time feelings. And then, for the final knockout punch, they brought in the cold, hard system data. Each step gets more and more precise. And this entire structure is built on a super important scientific idea, triangulation. The best analogy is asking for directions, right? If one person points you down a street, you might think, okay, maybe. But if a second person tells you the same thing and your GPS confirms it, you're going to be pretty darn sure you're on the right track. That's exactly what they did here. By getting the same signals from interviews, from surveys, and from the system data, they could be incredibly confident that what they were finding was real. It's what makes this whole study so powerful. And they didn't just talk to a few people. Look at these numbers. We're talking about 22 deep one-on-one interviews, a survey with over 200 developers, a daily diary study with nearly 80 participants, and finally, a deep dive into the system data from 131 developers. This is a serious, comprehensive investigation, which gives their conclusions a whole lot of weight. So, with this rock-solid method in place, what did they actually discover? Well, the first layer of clues came directly from the source. What did developers themselves say was ruining their day? When they asked developers to just define a bad day in their own words, the number one theme, by a long shot, was engineering system friction. Now, this isn't about struggling with a complex problem. This is about the environment itself getting in your way. It's the slow builds, the flaky tests, the messy deployment pipelines. It's like trying to run a marathon in deep mud. And of course, that friction directly causes the next two biggest things, feeling blocked and feeling like you got nothing done. And this table just drills down into the nitty-gritty. The number one ranked blocker wasn't a hard bug. It was your pull request just sitting there waiting on someone else for reasons totally outside your control. It's that feeling of powerlessness. Right behind it is that awful, sinking feeling of a wasted day, followed by a slow laptop that just chips away at your soul, not being able to find help when you're stuck, and the old classic, a day that's just jam-packed with meetings. All right, so we've got the triggers, but let's talk about the damage. What's the real human cost of these bad days? Because it goes so much deeper than just being a little annoyed. This is a huge finding. The impact is totally different depending on your experience level. Junior developers tend to turn these problems inward. You know, a tool breaks and they think, oh man, is it me? Am I not smart enough for this job? It's a recipe for imposter syndrome. But seniors, they've seen this movie before. They know a broken process when they see one. So their reaction isn't self-doubt, it's frustration. And it makes them think, you know what? I don't need to deal with this. And just listen to this quote from one of the senior devs in the study. It's absolutely chilling. For them, the worst days aren't just killing their motivation for the moment, They are literally pushing them to go look for a new job. That's a direct, undeniable line from system friction straight to losing your best people. And here's the really crucial part. The stress from a bad day doesn't just vanish when you log off. No way. It follows developers home. It creeps into their personal time as stress and anxiety. It harms their relationships. It can even affect their physical health. And a lot of them said they end up working late just to catch up from a day that was stolen by friction, basically paying for the company's inefficient systems with their own personal time. Okay, this is the moment of truth. We've heard the stories. We've seen the survey rankings. We know the emotional toll. But are these just feelings, or can we actually see this stuff in the data? This is where that final piece of the puzzle, the telemetry analysis, comes in, and it's awesome. The way they tested this was so simple and so clever. They took a complaint like, "My code reviews take forever," and split the developers into two groups. Group 1 was everybody who said, "Yes, this causes me bad days." And Group 2 was everyone who said, "Nah, it's not a big deal for me." And then they just went to the logs and compared the numbers for those two groups. And wow, the results were crystal clear. The group that complained about PRs had a total review time that was almost 24% longer. But look at that dwell time. That's the time a PR just sits there waiting for someone to even start reviewing it. For the frustrated group, it was nearly double. And that tiny little p-value there means this is statistically significant. It is absolutely not a coincidence. And it was the exact same story for build times. The group that reported bad days because of slow builds, their average build time was over 26% longer than the other group. Again, statistically significant. The data was basically screaming that the developers' feelings were spot on. So this is the big takeaway from this part of the investigation. The developers were right. Their frustrations were not just in their heads. They were accurate, reliable sensors detecting a real, measurable, quantifiable problem in the system. Their feelings were data. So we have the triggers that developers feel. We have the devastating human cost. And now we have the cold, hard data to prove it's all real. And when you put all of those pieces together, the researchers uncovered the most dangerous finding of all, a self-perpetuating vicious cycle. And this right here is the final conclusion. This is how it all connects. It all starts with that system friction, a slow build, a waiting PR that triggers a bad day. That stress follows you home, it messes with your sleep, it leaves you emotionally exhausted, so you come back to work the next day already tired with cognitive fatigue, you're less creative, less resilient, more likely to make a mistake, which makes it dramatically more likely that you're going to have, you guessed it, another bad day. The system's problems create a human energy debt that just gets worse every single day. Okay, wow, are you feeling exhausted just hearing about this cycle? I kind of am. If you want to break the cycle of doom scrolling and inject some high-quality, zero-friction content into your day, I know a little secret. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button for VibeDoc. I can personally guarantee our content delivery pipeline is flawless. Our build times are instantaneous, and the only pull request you'll ever get is for another awesome explainer. It's the one notification that won't give you anxiety. But seriously, let's bring it all home. The conclusion of this entire study is unavoidable. Bad developer days are not a mystery. They aren't just individual developers having a tough time. They are measurable, systemic problems with a clear cause and a devastating cost, both for people and for businesses. This research proves it. And that leaves all of us with one very important final question. Now that we know, what are we going to do about it?